Good day, everyone. My name is John Abad, and I am a part time instructor at the City College of Mauban, uh, province of Quezon. My report for today is about the Chapter 3 of Organizational Development, the Feeding Back Diagnostic Information. Our key topics to discuss in this presentation is about determining the content of the feedback, characteristics of the feedback process. And our learning objectives is to understand the importance of the data in the OD process and to describe the desired characteristics of feedback content and to describe the desired characteristics of the feedback process. And what is feedback diagnostic information? This is a step in the diagnostic process which feeding back diagnostic information to the client organization. So, the most important step in the diagnostic process is feeding back diagnostic information to the client organization. Although the data may have been collected with the client's help, the OD practitioner often organizes and presents them to the client and properly analyze and meaningful data that can have an impact on the organizational change only if the organization members can use the information to devise appropriate action plans. Um, the feedback process is to be sure that the client has ownership of the data, and the wide use of questionnaires is in the OD work is in known as the survey feedback. Uh, the key objective of the feedback process is to be sure that the client has the ownership of the data. The success of the feedback depends largely on its ability to arouse organizational action and to uh, direct energy toward the organizational problem solving. Whether feedback helps to energize the organization depends on the content of the feedback data and on the process by which they are fed back to organization members. And the flexible or a flexible and potentially powerful technique for the data feedback is the use of the questionnaire in the OD work, so which is known as the survey feedback. So let us now go to how we're going to determine the content of the feedback. So how are we going to determine the content of the feedback? So here are the following properties. Number one is the relevant. So organization members are likely to use the feedback data for problem solving. When when they find an information which is very meaningful. It includes here the managers, the employees, and in the initial data of the collection, activities that can increase the data or the relevance of the data. The second one is the data must be presented is to have a understandable. So the organization members in a form that is really interpreted statistical data. For example, they can be made understandable through the use of paragraphs and charts. And the third one is descriptive. So the feedback data need to be linked or real organizational behaviors if they are to arouse and direct energy. So the use of examples and detailed illustrations can help employees gain a better feel for the data. Number four is verifiable. So the feedback data should be valid and accurate. The information should allow organization members to verify whether the findings really describe the organization. So, for example, the questionnaire data might include the information about the sample of respondents as well as the frequency distributions for each item or measure. So, such as information can help members to verify whether the feedback data is accurate and accurately represent the organizational events or attitudes. The number five is timely. So in here, the data should be fed back to members as um, as quickly as possible after being collected and analyzed. So this will help uh, to ensure that the information is still valid and the link and linked to the members' motivation. And another one is the limited. So the people can easily become overloaded with too much information. And the feedback data should be limited to what employees can realistically process at on time. And seven is significant. So the feedback should be limited to those problems that organization members can do something about because it will energize them and help direct their efforts toward realistic changes. Number eight, so we have comparative. The feedback data can be ambiguous without some benchmark as a reference. Whenever possible, the data from comparative groups should be provided to give organization members a better idea of how their group fits into a broader context. And number nine is the unfinalized. So this feedback is primarily a stimulus for action, and that should spur further diagnosis and the problem solving. So example is the use of data as a starting point for more in-depth discussions. So let us now go on to the characteristics of the feedback. So in addition in providing the effective feedback data, it is very important to attend to what process by the information is fed back to the people. So typically, the data that being provided to the organization members in a series of meetings should have uh, uh, provide a forum for discussing the data, drawing relevant conclusions, and devising preliminary action plans. So we have here the from the slide we have here the confrontation meeting process. So we said that it should have they should have to provide the meetings the date provide the meetings forum or discussions and as we could see we have or they should have to set the meeting, create the groups representing multiple perspectives, set the ground rules, group identify the problems and opportunities, report out to the large group, and it goes to how they will be creating or create a master list, how they are going to form the to solve the problem and what are those issues, the opportunities, action plan, specify the timetable, and they have to provide the periodic reports to a large group. So because the data might include the sensitive materials and evaluations of the organization members' behavior. So the people may come to the meeting with considerably or considerable anxiety. They have the fear about receiving the feedback. So And these anxieties can result in a defensive behavior, which aim at denying the information or providing the rationales. And more positively, the people can be stimulated by the feedback and the hope that the desired changes will result from the feedback meeting, because the people are likely to come to feedback meetings with yes, the fear, the anxiety, and of course members are hoping. And OD practitioners need to manage the feedback process or feedback process so that the constructive decision and problem solving occur. And the most important objective of the feedback process is to ensure that the organization members own the data, because the ownership is the opposite of resistance to change and refers to people's willingness to take responsibility for the data, their meaning, and the consequences of using them to devise a change strategy. And if the feedback session results in organization members rejecting the data, it's invalid or useless. Then the motivation to change is lost, and members will have difficulty engaging in a meaningful process of change. And we have characteristics of feedback. So the ownership of feedback data is facilitated by the five feature of successful feedback process. So we have number one, the motivation to work with the data. So people need to feel that working with the feedback data will have beneficial outcomes, because if people have little motivation to work with the data, or feel that there is a little change to use of the data for change, and then the information will not be owned by the client system. So people need to feel that working with the feedback data will have a beneficial outcomes. So example is the people feel free to raise issues and identify concerns during the feedback session. So as you could see in the example, a blue margin. So this is a company which help the mid-market companies become data-driven to ignite the new growth and profitability by keeping everyone focused on their most critical success metrics, and they capitalize on a culture of ownership where each employee is empowered with the visibility into performance metrics needed to drive motivation and also the strategic thinking. This company, the Blue Margin, experimented with various tactics to motivate their employees and executives. And most people is the desire to make an impact. And most employees find the highest order of job satisfaction by using their talents to create something to significance and value. And as they observe, no number of employees delivers the sense of accomplishment needed to sustain the motivation. And according to the recent article in the Harvard Business Review, they said that the key to sustaining employees' motivation is providing empirical feedback. The example is the data-driven dashboard. So this is the example on the slide. So that is the example of the data-driven dashboard. So the authors of the Harvard Business Review says that if you want to motivate employees, stop following your instinct and adopt the data-driven approach. So this data-driven approach is the data the use of the data to guide the actions and policies. As This has the potential to create better result than taking guesses, but can also be suboptimal based on the misinterpretation of the data, the unknowns, the faulty data, missing data, incorrect models, poorly designed algorithms, or a failure to leverage the human talents. So these are the strategy, design, design automation, marketing, communication, and the artificial intelligence, performance management, decision estimates, management, accounting, reasoning, and the policy. So these are the what in the data driven approach. So and also we have second one is the structure for the meeting. So the feedback meetings need to have the some structure. So in the structure for the meeting, it has the agenda or outline for the meeting, and the presence of a discussion leader can usually provide the necessary direction. So the meeting should be kept on track, especially when the data are negative. Ownership that can be lost in conversation that become too general. So and if the meeting is not kept on track, especially when this happens, the energy gain from dealing directly with the problems, which is being lost. The third one is the appropriate attendance. So this is the punctual attendance. The punctual attendance is essential for promoting positive relationships and developing the good attitudes. So this involves the work team from different functional areas without proper representation in the meeting. Ownership of the data is lost because the participants cannot address the problems suggested by the feedback. And another one, the fourth one, is the appropriate power. So members need to know which issues to change or recommend changes because it is important to clarify the power possessed by the group. So the members need to know which issues to change or recommend changes unless there are clear boundaries, the members are likely to have some hesitations about using the feedback data for generating action plans. So, if the group has no more or no power to make changes, so the feedback meeting will become an empty exercise and there will be a little ownership of the data. And the fifth one is the process help, so that the um, practitioners with group process skills. So here is the feedback meetings requires assistance in working together as a group because when the data are negative, the implications deflect the conversations into or onto safer subjects. Practitioners with group process skills can help members takes focus on the subject and to improve feedback discussion, the problem solving, and the ownership. So as you could see, we have the action research model here. So which is a set of example. So the action research is a process in planning which involves the fact finding, taking action, and fact finding about the results of the action. So, according to Lewin, 1947, so it's very old, the action research is a process by which practitioners attempt to study their problems, scientifically in order to guide, correct, and evaluate their decisions and the action. So and so according to research process on putting information to action, and according to the OD approach to action research, so we have three stages. So we have stage one, two, and three. So the change influence every aspect of life for organizations. So the change is the way to remain competitive and to grow, being prepared to initiate or anticipate and respond positively to change. And this is beneficial to efficiency, sustainability of the organizations, and to further plan for change to achieve the best results. And organizations can implement successful change programs for a long and short term. So therefore, this action research model can help to facilitate the change. So because this action research is a problem centered, client centered, and action oriented. So this helps involve the client system in a diagnostic active learning problem finding and problem solving process. So further, it requires the change of agents who acts as a conduits for delegation and feedback to take on pivotal responsibilities and also in the information to effectively communicate the data. So this data is then introduced in joint open session instead of being simply returned in the form of a written report. So the client and the change agents then collaborate in identifying and ranking specific problems in devising methods to or for finding the real causes and real causes of the problems, and also how they are going to develop the plans for coping with them, with or both realistically and practically. So for this stage one, so we have the series of planning actions initiated by the client and the change agents working together. So during this stage, the client and change agent begin initial process to the problems and theorize the perspective. So the stage two is the action to or the transformation phase. So this requires collaboration and involvement of all active participants. And the stage three is the output and the result of the phase. So this is the final stage, produces findings, analysis, conclusions, and reflection. So the example of action research is the one of the example is the Warner Burks action research method implement change. So this research helps clients identify the business needs and challenge create a contract to define a working relationship and deliverables, collect the data to identify the gaps and find the root causes, and also analyze the data to identify the priorities and actions needed, and identify the interventions needed, and create a project plan. So the project plan can help achieve long-term goals, implement the interventions, collect feedback to measure results, and transfer the skills and knowledge learned to embed the process to or into the culture. So, by using the action research model, the OD practitioners demonstrate better skills as facilitators, coaches, counselors, meeting planners, mediators, and process owners. So, The OD practitioner transferred their knowledge to the organization in data collections, analysis, and statistical tools borrowed from areas like quality management, strategic planning, communication, problem solving, decision making, team building, culture change, system thinking, leadership development, and uh, and the process improvement. And that's it. And thank you for listening. So this is are my resources. Thank you and God bless.